the facts, and then we roll with reason. And I'm your host, Denzel Minor. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much, Denzel.
And Mheshimiwa, I don't want to spend much time. Let's just go right into the discussion of the day.
Yes.
It's been a mixed bag of fortunes for Kenya since President Ruto took over. 2022, he came in with a landslide of optimism, a wave of euphoric tendencies that has not been experienced before, maybe since NAC. And 3 years later, some are saying he's blown off the steam, some are saying we're just getting started. 2027 is coming. What are your thoughts maybe on the last 3 years?
You know, when you elect a president,
Yes.
you elect him as a first among equals, or you elect the best among the candidates that you have. He's not necessarily perfect, and he's not necessarily 100% will do everything. So whenever we want to evaluate a president, we must go back and say, what is his performance compared to his peers in the neighborhood, to his predecessors in the past, to the possible replacements. That is how you evaluate a president.
Okay.
You don't pick him, put him in isolation, and say, you have not done this, we haven't achieved this, we haven't achieved that. When presidents campaign, they normally make promises, bring forth covenants, bring proposals, and even sometimes they talk about things they would wish to happen and put it in such a way that the electorate thinks that is what is going to happen. So if you want to evaluate a sitting president, you must step back and look at his predecessors and his peers in the neighborhood.
Okay, let's look at his predecessors. His predecessor, actually, where he served as deputy, and now he is the head of state and he is the head of government.
Correct.
His predecessor, across 10 years, there was, let's say, a level of appetite for big infrastructure projects. We may not have seen that with President Ruto so far, an appetite for big infrastructure projects. Maybe what do you think calls for these subtle differences that we see since he took over in terms of economic planning?
In a country like Kenya, you shouldn't expect very large infrastructure projects without loans. By the time President William Ruto was getting into office, Kenya was choked with loans to the brim. And also, you must also remember that the largest infrastructure projects we can talk about from his predecessor is the SGR and the expressway. Take note that the SGR is a marvelous loan. So is the expressway. They are public-private partnerships that were taken by Uhuru the regime. When President William Ruto came to power, he also intended to have one such project called the airport upgrading, where we were to bring another terminal under public-private partnership, where the developer would then come and manage it going forward until he recovers his resources. That is what his detractors beat to death. But what I want to tell you, that when President Uhuru was bringing the SGR or even the expressway, nobody even wanted to know which companies he was partnering with. They didn't even bother. When President William Ruto now proposes such a thing, his detractors decided that they want to know who is going to do it. They want to know his standing in the international community. So for me, from where I sit, I think there is a way in which people are biased against the person of President William Ruto, even before he completed his first project. I can see your hand is up.
Lecture room antics. But let me just circle back on that point. You say that the audience has been a little bit less tolerant with President Ruto compared to what it was with President Kenyatta. They gave President Kenyatta probably some more leeway that they are not giving President Ruto.
Correct.
What do you think causes this thing? How has this come about?
I want you to remember that when President William Ruto was campaigning to be president of Kenya, there's a line he loved, and that line was dynasty. There are people in this country who believe it is only them who can govern this country. And I think the president correctly named them as dynasty. When they saw a person who is not one of their own, one they believed is not the pedigree to become the president. I think by instinct or whatever it was, they went into an overdrive to fight, and resources were put down to bring him down. Remember, before President William Ruto even had his first budget, Azimio was on the road demanding that, oh, this guy wasn't properly elected, we want to see the server. Honestly, they were playing to the gallery of the ordinary man. But me and you know nothing like the server voted. We know who voted, we know how the votes were counted, we know how they were secured, and we know that there was even an opportunity to do what is called verification that never even took place. But here are men and women on the streets demanding that something has to be done. I don't know under which constitution that was going to be done. Beyond that, people were even talking about the cost of living. But I remember as we approached the elections, the cost of living was already high. So for me, from where I sit, I concluded that there are some people who believe it is a good way of dealing with the person of President William Ruto, so that either he doesn't do 2 terms or he doesn't even complete the very term that he has, because he had attacked the people who believe it is only them who can govern this nation. That is where we come from. And if you remember, during the first protests that were led by Azimio, they were united together with the people who have now gone their separate ways, and now the other people who have actually joined President William Ruto. They were in unity, very united, and you could see what was happening.
Maybe let me ask, you said there are dynasties who are opposing President Ruto, and that is fueling discontent. What are some of the most specific, exact tactics they are using and employing against the president?
Correct.
Because we have to be detailed in describing exactly what nature of attack the president is undergoing.
Exactly. I want you to remember that there was something that we called Limuru 3 conference.
Well, what is that?
There was a Limuru 3 conference. I think it was either March or April.
Yes, I remember the one that Kinamada went.
It was a communal conference that did not want anybody who did not speak the Kikuyu language. But I want anybody who understands the language to go online. It is still there today, and listen to the statements people made. It was very disheartening, even if you came from that community. And you are wondering where Kenya was going. These street protests, especially the last one that almost brought this government to its knees, the one that was so-called the Gen Z thing. Do you know when President Uhuru Kenyatta became president, the budget was 1.6 trillion. The time he was leaving, it was 3.3 trillion. What that means is that every year, there was a general increase in budget, a general increase in taxes to achieve that figure. But there were no protests. But when President William Ruto came in, and his second budget was going to go to about 4 trillion, up from 3.6, there was so much noise about the finance bill, even before it went to parliament. Not that these leaders who are leading these things and guiding did not know that what they were protesting about to be done correctly is supposed to be done by the National Assembly of representatives they elected by themselves, which they even have power to recall if they wish.
Let me ask, are you saying that the youth popular uprising in the country is an act of the dynasties?
Exactly. I thought you knew that. Let me tell you something. This so-called Gen Z thing is not independent. Don't be cheated. Mark Twain once said, it is very easy to fool people, but it is very difficult to convince them that they have been fooled. There are people who went to the street not even knowing who is behind what they were going for. All they knew that Gen Zs are supposed to go to the streets to protest finance bill, but they don't know the genesis. I listened every evening to political rallies online that were addressed by Willy Mutunga, Miguna, Martha Karua. Are those Gen Zs?
But when the president convened a town hall and the youth, people spoke about issues like accountability of public finances. People spoke about issues like forced disappearances. People spoke about issues like criminal justice system. People spoke about issues like taxes and the cost of living. That's not dynasty.
correct. What I'm trying to tell you, it is those things are not new to Ruto. They have been there. How come in the past nobody talked about them?
And that's why I posed the question to you earlier. Is the audience a bit more intolerant of a short? They want things short term. I mean, Mr. Ruto and President Ruto, is he on toes? Yani amekuwa on toes
No.
more than any other president.
No. What has happened is somebody has incited that audience. I want you to allow me to tell you this thing about Gen Zs. The day the Gen Zs almost brought this car down, the day our eyes opened that actually there are people called Gen Zs on the ground. Do you know who announced that they are leaderless, they are tribeless, and they are partyless? It wasn't a Gen Z. It was one Rigathi Gachagua speaking from Mombasa. Speaking from close to State House in Mombasa.
What do you think is...
what did he know that even the president, the first person to consume intelligence report, did not know?
Let me ask you.
Yes.
What do you think is the role of digital platforms in terms of setting the narrative and mobilizing for Gen Zs? Because I can tell you, on June 2024, people didn't go out because Rigathi had called them. People went out because they had mobilized themselves individually. Maybe Rigathi danced to their tune, saying they're leaderless, tribeless, way later after he had learned like everyone else.
The first time we heard about leaderless, tribeless, it was from one Rigathi Gachagua. And let me tell you something. That platform you're talking about is not new. It did not come with this Gen Zs. You remember as old as the days, I think it was 2012, there was a governor candidate here. What is his name? He relied very much on social media, though he didn't go far, because the social
Peter
media...
Kenneth.
Peter Kenneth.
Presidential.
Peter Kenneth started using this platform long
But
time
Honorable, let me ask you a question.
I will give
And,
you an
and
answer.
I'm asking in good justice. Gen Z and Rigathi are two political outcomes that are independent of each other. Like, let me give you, CJ Maraga went on TV, on Radio Juzi. Akasema, he won't work with President Ruto, but he's considering working with Rigathi. And everyone online was like, man, that's it, we're out. Rigathi is not the leader of the Gen Z.
You are getting me wrong. When I give you an example of Rigathi, I don't say Rigathi is the mother and father of this. You remember, my answer which I gave you first was there is a dynasty issue here, which believe that somebody else can't be. Rigathi Gachagua was just the one person, because only one person can talk at a time.
Yes.
And let me tell you, in politics, nothing just happens. The
The
presence of Rigathi Gachagua in Mombasa on the day the Gen Zs almost overran parliament is telling. Even this place, I want to tell you, before that rebellion, this place was very active, was very vibrant. We used to be here like every other week doing party activities. And when things went the way they did, the modus operandi had to change. New alliances had to be built. New people had to be brought in. New support had to be looked for, because somebody had betrayed the other. In Kenya today, because they are too late to see political eyes coming out, political claws coming out, they start seeing that, President William Ruto betrayed Rigathi Gachagua through impeachment, when they don't know when things started. I personally went with those two to Nyamira. The president calls the deputy to speak. The guy speaks and goes back and sits in his car. And I thought, this is the height of it. So by the time the impeachment was coming, already those two people could not cope.
But also I feel like tax has become a very radicalizing issue more than in any other regime. Tax. It's become
It only does when somebody speaks about it. This hoi polloi you see out here in the streets do not even know what they are being taxed for.
Who exactly are you calling hoi polloi, sir?
This person you meet here on the road, the one who goes to protest.
Oh.
But it's somebody has to incite them. Somebody has to inform them. Somebody has to activate them that, you see, he taxed to nalipa ni mingi. If somebody doesn't do that, they're okay.
What about the pain from their cost of living or something like that? That can also incite them. One of the reasons people come together is common pain.
This is the first time the cost of living is high. Before the last general election, unga was 250. In fact, Uhuru had to rush in and bring what is called subsidy.
What do you think is the role of the new voter bloc, the Gen Zs, in the 2027 election?
Every other year, that age of Gen Zs are always in the population. This is not the first time Gen Z was part of the population.
But this is the first time we're having a civically demanding movement of that population.
Because somebody incited them.
Okay.
Because this is the first time.
Or maybe they are awake to their civic duties.
No, it's not maybe. This year we facts, logic, and reasoning.
What do you make of the right to picket in the Constitution?
It's the right thing to do because it is in the Constitution. But it was not put in the Constitution as a sport, that something you can go and canvass in court, you want to go and canvass in the streets. You remember there was this time when the media was being shut down for airing live protests. Where did they go? Not to the streets. They ran to court. But the other people, they incite them for things that they canvass in court, they go to the streets.
The Gen Zs can sit here and say Article 1 says so all sovereign powers belong to the people.
Of course it does.
And the people may.
But it can be exercised also through elected representatives.
Or directly.
Which they did
or
and
directly.
sent to parliament.
But or directly.
Sorry?
Or directly.
Or directly. But that directly, a way of doing directly must be put, which is non-violent, which is non-destructive, which is non-injurious.
And what do you think are some of the ways in which that can manifest?
Through referenda.
Through
referendums. A referenda is a way of direct exercise of that power.
But we cannot have the referendum over tax.
To serve our interests.
But we can't have a referendum just over tax. We can't annul a whole constitution over tax.
So when you see 10,000 people on the streets demanding something, do you know what the other millions remaining at home are demanding? You cannot legally use street protests to achieve a binding political journey, to receive a binding law or new rule. You can't.
Well, if you look at the history of...
People used to make noise about of public participation. Public participation is not binding. Even as a lawyer,
do you think it's important?
But it is not binding.
Do you find it important?
To let the people who are going to make decisions know generally what the people think, so that they peg their decisions based on what the people said in public participation. But it is not binding.
Do you think public participation should be at the beginning of the process or throughout the whole process?
No, it should be at the beginning of the process.
Only at the beginning?
Because it's a very expensive thing. If we are going to make one that have semblance of being binding.
Okay, let's talk about inclusivity in Kenya. The president came in, as you said, with the hustler, the elite dynasties narrative. There were the poor people who were kind of isolated from the national cake. How well have we done to transfer resources down the pyramid back to the original person?
I think even these people who are talking about resources are not really the people got it wrong. Because sometimes back we fought in this country to have devolution, to send resources down to the people, to the very people that they would elect and call them governors, who would dispense with that money down there. In fact, it's a good thing because even when they are corrupt with it there, it remains down there, and we expect it to touch the lives of people down there. So with this devolution there, those resources go back down there. But again, the president came back with the idea of the biggest problem people have when they begin life is a shelter, is a roof over their heads. And the president came up with what he called affordable housing. Affordable housing is not supposed to 100% solve the problems of housing. It's supposed to ease. How does it ease? When you have like Kisumu, I see the affordable housing are so many, such that when they are complete, the rents will drastically go down. Even for somebody who does not buy, because I had a very pedestrian argument that not everybody can afford those things. Those who can't afford it will get the ones they can afford now cheaply.
You were in charge of the Lake Development Commission at some point, the Lake Basic Development. What are some of the projects that you probably at that point suggested you saw were important that now you're looking back and you're seeing, good, we did a good job, this thing has transformed lives?
You know, when you are heading a public institution,
yes,
especially a parastatal,
yes,
what you achieve is as good as the resources that is available to you. So if you are available to resources that can build a whole world, you will build the whole world. If you are available nothing, you will sit there and pay salaries. So the problem we have that you need to use to evaluate people who had such institutions is their strategic plan. What did you plan to do This is what we plan. How much money did you get? What was your priority in the strategic plan that you had?
What
With
was
the
for
little
you?
that
You got?
you got.
What about for
During
you?
my tenure, that is the first time we had farms which are called demonstration farms in Moroni, in Lechota, and in Busia, so that people who want to keep animals, who want to do farming, can learn from how it is done by the government itself. And remember that we were using from a total budget of 300 million, out of which the recurrent expenditure was over 200 million.
Why do salaries become a thorn? How is in Kenya's past, in the past of public institution, you find that we get money probably, but we spend a large chunk of it on this topic of recurrent expenditure. Are we overstaffing? Is it, why?
There's something you need to know about staffing, especially in parastatals. There are times, because the staffing generally in government remains constant, because you can't fire people from a parastatal, because this year our budget is 600 million, and the previous year it was 10 billion. You can't fire people because that has happened, right? So the year when you have 200 million in your budget, you may find all of it is going to use to pay staff, and development is nothing. The year when you have 6 billion, you find your recurrent expenditure still remains around 200 million, slightly over, with a develop of about 5 billion. That is what happens in parastatal. So when a parastatal is neglected, maybe partly because in which part of the country it is, you find their development to recurrent ratio is very disheartening.
Because you are chairman, let me just ask you, and I know, I'm asking on behalf of very many young people, what's the role of lobbying in the day-to-day administration of parastatals in Kenya? How much does lobbying actually contribute?
Lobbying who?
Lobbying
The government for resources.
Government, outside partners, or even internal private sector?
Lobbying is largely very official, because you prepare a strategic plan, present it to your ministry, and they decide there what you are going to get from that strategic plan that you plan. Like, for example, the last time I was there, our strategic plan for 5 years was 25 billion. That was approximately 5 billion per year. And how much did we get? 300 million. So that was what happened. We cannot have that kind of lobbying where I need to walk from here, go and sit in the treasury, go and sit in parliament where it is allocated, and demand that. Nobody will even finance you to do that.
Okay. In Kenya, President Ruto has had to deal with the question of the youth, probably in a more delicate manner than any other president before.
Correct.
The youth in President Ruto's time are more aware, they are awake, they are demanding to be included and to be participatory in our decision making as a country. They've gone to the levels that they are willing to express this aggression, not even aggression, to express this push, even on the streets, and carry out demonstrations that we've never seen before. I think that June 25th was the biggest one we've seen in Kenya.
Absolutely.
Do you think the president has handled it correctly, or there's a lot more work to do?
He has tried his best. But I want to tell you something. That the youth that you call Gen Zs are awake is true. But somebody has woken them up. And that is a good thing. This is a bad thing. But the choice of Gen Zs to lead this revolution was very deliberate. It was deliberate because they are a reckless age. I was there also. They are purists. They want perfection. They are strong and have stamina. And they are the people who have no benefit of history. They have no
what do you mean by that?
They have no benefit of history, because if you send me there, I would first look at, say that you want to tell me that President William Ruto is so bad that he should go home. But I was here when Kibaki was president. I saw how the Standard newspapers was raided. I was here when Kibaki was president. I saw how Michuki ordered the Masais and the Supukia to be shot dead from behind. That you don't tell the youth, they will not even believe you.
But they can also say, I was here when Kibaki was president and I remember it was a good time. you know.
It was?
So I think it was a good time. I grew up when Kibaki was
Let me tell
president.
you-
It was a good time.
Let me tell you, the Kibaki was a good came as a result of having stayed with one president for 24 years. And through the 24 years, we had believed that it is the change we want to happen. Actually, President Mwai Kibaki came to power with a lot of goodwill. People had believed that this is the change that will make us, instead of the police arresting us, we will be the one to arrest the police. That is the goodwill he came with.
We had
But
a
I don't
panelist
think
last
you
week.
know that that goodwill began eroding from time to time when Anglo-Leasing came in, when
But-
scandals came in, when orders came in.
I don't think there will ever be a situation in which government is scandal-free over 10 years,
No,
to
never.
be fair. But one thing I know, I'm more afraid now being a young person than I've ever been before. And that's a sentiment a lot of people
You
are
have
sharing.
been a young person for a long time.
I have been a young person all my life. You have not
How long is your life?
How long is it? Young enough. Young enough. But when you think about
you are
it,
left-
but think about what I'm telling you. There's never been a time when, like, being young felt, my God, I don't know if I'll see. Now its situation is improving, but somewhere last year, things were thick. Things were thick.
I want to give you some homework. When people want to make you appear dirty, appear evil, all they need is the microphone, and they will do it. Do you know, in 2020, early 2020, and 2019, and up to almost 2020, we believed that COVID was killing so many people that sooner or later, Kenya will remain with nobody. Go and check at the death register. You'll find 2020, in that period, had the least deaths.
Yeah.
And we were being told every evening, a minister
No,
goes
but
on
look.
TV to tell us how many people have died.
Look,
And the same is true for very many other countries. So this microphone can make a good man look very dirty.
Sipingi, what you're saying, slander
Correct.
happens on a mic. But there's one thing I also want to tell you, sir.
Yes, yes.
There are a lot of young people. Young people. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about young people. People I
Yes.
interact with daily, my age, who they walk around with anxiety. I won't lie
They
to
walk
you.
around with?
Anxiety. Just Juzi Gabe was here and he was telling us outback ikipita bado anasikianga hivyo. You get what I'm saying? We've had goods, we've had a lot of triumphant moments, but we've also had tough moments together as a country. Look, but one thing I'll credit is that our state of infrastructure has largely been maintained. We may not have built new roads, but we've maintained the ones we have. Our state of security has greatly improved in terms of external threats. We've not had an Al-Shabaab attack in a very long time. In fact, largely the major security problem is communal policing, the community, the tension between the community and the police force. And let me ask you, by the way, what do you think we can do around in that area? Because
What?
community and policing, community and police.
I think you need to look at facts, figures, and logic. You need to look at the statistics. And you will find that the level of insecurity now is no different from what it has been in the past. The problem with us is we go, listen to other people talk, and we pick it up and go with it without ourselves going back and looking at figures. 2 weeks ago, I had a conversation like this with the Gen Z. That time, I had the opportunity to address them. And one of them came and told me what he wanted. He wanted free education, free healthcare, and even gave me budgets for achieving that. Then he also told me he wants VAT to go back to go to 5%. Then I asked him, what are you going to use to finance this free healthcare, to finance this free education? And have you ever taken the Kenyan revenue sources and see which one gives you the highest, which one you can reduce without reducing what we have? Today,
I think
we
reducing
collect a maximum of 2.6 trillion. And the 2.6 trillion, just a minute, 1.1 trillion external debt, 900 billion recurrent expenditure, 500 billion almost county government. What is left to do these things the people are demanding daily that the president does? Where are we going to get that money?
Number one, I think, now it's turning into a crossfire, and this is funny.
It's
by the
good,
way.
that's the best thing.
But one thing you have to understand
Yes.
is that people are not complaining that there is no money in Kenya. People are, number one, complaining on the accountability of these funds.
Correct.
Okay. Accountability.
I
The
agree.
president is on record saying that the problem in Kenya is not that we do not collect money. The problem is that we manage wrongly. So you see, the president and the civilian agree on one thing. Management of our resources needs to get better. The Auditor General report gives very minimal hope on terms of battling corruption and pilferage in the counties. And that's where we come to institutions like the EACC, we have the DCI, we have courts, and you realize slowly by slowly, the matters that your generation fought for are the same matters we are fighting for. But I don't think our age wants to go in that approach. People want them done now, and they're done now. And I feel like the president has been on the receiving end of this. He's the first one to deal with this audience come to maturity. Someone called us the microwave generation. We want things and we want things now. But even in politics, we may be a microwave generation. We want some things done, some levels that we've aspired to for the longest time. We want them done and we want them done now. And we should not be ashamed that we want them done now, right?
What I want to tell you, the moment, the kind of scenario we find ourselves in is one where there's largely very good awareness. That awareness has been created and there is nothing wrong with creating it. There's nothing absolutely wrong. But we need to change our country, not necessarily drastically change the people governing it, especially when you have not put a person you have seen, this person has a record of bringing positive change to what we have now. What we should do is keep the sitting president on toes so that he does what is good, he does what we want, he does what improves the country. But when you wake up and say, he has to go, yet we all see that he's doing what even the others used to do, it is not very easy to become president.
Let's talk
and
about...
when you do become, you definitely want to do the best. So if the people think that is not the best, all they need to do is demand the best. But when your song is, we don't want finance bill, this kipenge, when it is changed, we want it all dropped. When it is dropped, then the president must go. Then people begin to smell some conspiracy. And that is what we find ourselves in. In fact, what the youth need to do, set standards of the level of governance they want from whoever is sitting there. Wait for the next general election. Look at the candidates who are there and elect one they believe would do those things. But the ones I see masquerading and ready to be elected to replace President William Ruto, their record even before they become the president is very wanting. And you know them. There is nobody there with any clean record. And if you ask Gen Zs, who do you want to replace? No, let him go first, we will replace him. I ask them, you can't even determine who becomes your MCA, and here is you telling me that you will determine who becomes your president. You will not. You will be a standard by. You will be sitting there and watch somebody.
Have you seen Nepal, what they did in Nepal? Have you seen what happens in Nepal? What has happened in Nepal? What do you think about that?
That is the worst thing to do.
That is
not the correct way to change a regime. I was an adult when the regime in Somalia was changed, and today they have none. We celebrated when Rwanda took Kagame. Today some people are very unhappy. I watched when I was in Form 5 as Museveni took Uganda. Today the Ugandans are not happy and they cannot even remove him.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yes.
Ugandans are not happy?
They are talking about they want a free and fair election.
I can tell you a good portion of Uganda is happy with Musava.
It is okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
And the worst was Eritrea.
What happened?
Isaias Afewerki. You can't even hear Eritrea from the world map. You can't even receive a text message from outside the country without it being read by the state.
I think I was mature enough when they kicked Gaddafi out and it opened a Pandora's box.
Gaddafi was kicked by international community, not his own.
Anyway.
You want this one that
education.
You think you are getting a better president because the other one is bad and you remove him. Let me tell you what people do.
Yeah, what do they do?
You paka matope the sitting president until people begin to say, hata tukipewa ungo tutachukua. At that point, it's now when you bring somebody who's not far from a dog to replace him. And you are still in the same problem you had with this one. So if somebody tells you that the president is so bad that he should be removed from office, let them tell you the replacement, because a president is elected on the basis of these 3, 4, 5, 6 people who are running for the presidency. Who is better? It is not about who is perfect, because none may be perfect among them.
Is it
So
about
if somebody
manifesto?
wants you to remove a sitting president and does not have a better option waiting on the sidelines, tell him, go home. Let's deal with the devil we know.
SHA, health, and then the health. How do you think we're in a better place health-wise as a country in terms of public health?
Let me tell you something about SHA. We are in a very good place. You remember with NHIF, we had about 4 million Kenyans registered, and we are getting. Now we already have 24 million. There we had 4 million.
9 million.
And you see, people go here and come and tell you, SHA is not working. We went to hospital and there was no medicine. SHA is not working. We went to hospital and we were told we have not contributed. Yet SHA is an underwriter. SHA is not the hospital management. SHA is the payer of your bill. So if you don't get treated, SHA will have nothing to pay. Blame the governors if the hospitals are not working.
What about
blame the national government if the national hospital referral hospitals are not working?
What about
but you don't
those
blame SHA when the hospitals are not working?
What about those who say SHA does not pay the whole bill?
They pay. And if they don't pay the whole bill, there has to be a legal reason why that does not happen. Because Kenya is a country where litigation is very easy, and you can go to court and say, I have been a member of good standing in SHA, and they are refusing to pay the bill, which by the thing, by the law, they are supposed to pay.
Okay. President Ruto inherited a very constrained fiscal space from President Uhuru.
Constrained fiscal space?
Yes. How do you judge his debt management tactics so far?
There are also something people don't know. I have heard people arguing that President William Ruto, since he came to power, the debt level has not gone down. But I also must remind you that when a debt is over 10 trillion, its interest alone per year can be balancing with the repayment you are making. And as you make that repayment, there are some people in the street also demanding certain things which require resources. It is a very serious balancing act. But I think because the debt has not grown the way some people imagine it should grow, I think President William Ruto has managed his debt level fairly well. Between President Uhuru and President Ruto, who do you think is the real loan shark? I think there's something also you need to understand. The value of the Kenya shilling within the two regimes. You can't compare a regime that reigned 10 years ago and one that's reigning now on money. I have heard people who told us that during Kenyatta, we were paying school fees 20 shillings, and now we are paying it 40,000. Not even looking at the value of money then and now. So that is the problem we have. You cannot compare two things which are not on the same scale. But the scale must be the same to compare any two items. But there's something called a reserve currency where we can hedge against a reserve currency and just determine by the numbers. But let me tell you something, my brother. Debt is exponential.
Oh, explain that.
Exponential means the higher it goes, the more it increased by higher values when it does.
Interest, yeah.
You get that?
Compounding.
It's exponential. So if your debt is 10 trillion, it can only increase in trillions. If it was in billions, it can only increase in billions. And this is what happens. So if you wake up and say, during Kibaki, he only borrowed 1 trillion. Ruto has borrowed 3 trillion. You will discover that the true value of money, those two figures are the same.
But look at it like this. When President Uhuru was leaving, around the GDP to debt to GDP ratio was quite high. In fact, I remember him telling Parliament to change how the debt ceiling is structured so that he could get some more room. Right now, President Ruto is struggling to bring the debt to GDP ratio down to around 52%. I think the number is coming down, but you can definitely see one was borrowing from Peter, the other one is having to pay Paul. Right? Actually, even when President Uhuru Kenyatta was bringing subsidies in fuel and food, it was reckless.
But there are certain things that I also need you to know as we leave this place. Do you know when we did the PPP on SGR? SGR was built from City Mariakani straight to Naivasha, not Naivasha town, to Uhuru's farm in Naivasha. And if you go there, you get time. The railway line has gone into his farm twice and came back as if it's coming to Nairobi and stopped. And that is not all. He was compensated for those hundreds of kilometers the railway line went around his farm. And that was not all. That farm was finally fenced off by the National Youth Service. And nobody spoke about it. Nobody complained. Nobody talked about corruption. So let us judge two people on the same scale. Let us be fair to everyone. And Kenya belongs to all of us. We must share all its resources equally and equitably, including the leadership positions. What destroys every country is struggling to change leadership in very unfair means. That is why we are very happy when we got a new constitution in which we could change leadership only through the ballot. But when we start going to the streets and saying must go, must not even finish one term, we are going to be in chaos. We will not be able to manage. After all, if we can wait for 1 year, then we can wait for 5 years and change a regime peacefully, knowing that in the next 5 years, we may need to change it again.
Do you think we need to redraw boundaries internally?
Internally? Boundaries of counties? Very good. If there is anything we need to review, it is the boundaries of the counties.
Jesus.
During the time when the boundaries of counties were being drawn, people were obsessed with our community must have a county in which they can be governor. For example, initially we were to have about 8 counties that fell on the old provinces. But then somebody came up and said, Rift Valley is so big, but one tribe will dominate. Nyanza is so big, one tribe will dominate. And this is how we came to split it. They could have been split, Nyanza could have been split into 2. But it was still going to bring a situation where one community still dominates. So this idea that you are cutting Nyanza into 6 pieces was to ensure that the major communities live there also get opportunities to be governors. But we have had a problem because there's something called recurrent expenditure for the counties. It is generally the same irrespective of the size of the county. So it means the 75% almost we are spending on recurrent expenditure in total of all the counties would have been a small amount of money if we had only 8 counties. For example, we have a county called Homa Bay. It has a budget of about 12 billion.
Homa Bay Gladys Wangas, no?
Yes. This 12 billion, 4 billion is development, 8 billion is recurrent. Siaya has also a similar budget. If you are to merge Homa Bay, Siaya and Migori, we are going to have the development expenditure jumping drastically very high because the recurrent expenditure would just move slightly above the 8 billion, say to 12. Then the amount of money left will be for development. But now that each of those tiny counties have chief engineer roads, has CEC roads, has what roads, and there are not even roads there to be properly built. You find a county has spent 100 million on roads the whole year, yet it has been paying CEC roads, chief engineer roads, road engineers, road inspectors, and all those people. So we are doing wastage by taking a country like Kenya and subdividing into very, very tiny sub-autonomous miniature kings and presidents. So that is what ought to happen. We need to review that because another thing which is very drastic, which I would have liked to happen, but I know it will be shot down on the basis of numbers, is devolution of government. We should have devolved resources the way we did in CDF. You know, CDF appeared to be more working better than the devolution because only resources were devolved. But in counties, we devolve a whole government. So if the government at the national level was corrupt, we actually devolved corruption to the counties. We would have devolved the resources and looked for a way of spending it using a small committee at the county level and say, here in Homa Bay, you have received 12 billion and you have 8 MPs, let them sit in the committee. Let's have the mayors of the small towns sit in that committee, a few precincts there, and we have a committee of 24 who decides what is to be done by that 12 billion that has been brought down. We can just use 1 billion out of it for logistics and payment of allowances.
All right, sawa. Honorable, look into your camera, give us your last words.
Kenyans, if you want to paint a person dirty, if you want to kill a dog, just give it a bad name and kill it. Many times politicians use that without us seeing their hands, without us knowing that it is them using us. Worst is when we try to discover if we are being used. We will never get to discover. But what is important? Kenya belongs to all of us. We must share its resources equally, including the leadership positions. Thank you.
All right, for me, it's simple as this. If you can walk with kings and keep the stride of ordinary men, if you can treat success and loss like two sides of the same coin, then the earth is yours and all that is in it, my son. We seek the truth from the facts and then we roar with reason. That has been episode 20. I'm your host, Denzel Minor. Tupatane episode 21. In the meantime, like, subscribe, share this video from whichever platform you're viewing us on. Asante.